and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and in this week's first impressions video we are looking at Airfix's 1:48 scale Hawker Hunter F4/F5/J34. It's a jet aeroplane and it looks awesome, so let's have a closer look. So this particular model is currently still available online at Airfix and is in their current lineup as I record this on the 20th of January 2022. We have the normal red box layout with three paint options depicted, and the usual lovely artwork that you get from Airfix, digital artwork, with this Hawker Hunter buzzing a fishing trawler, which I find quite a cool little picture. So this is a skill level 4 kit. I think it was 3 flying hours, although I've removed it, and as we look on the edge of the box there, we can see the 3 paint shout outs there. 3 different countries. It tells you a little bit about them there, and then we've got a little bit of history. The sides of the box are the same as the front really, and then on this side we have the usual sort of information, contact details, and so on, warning information. So let's have a look inside. So inside we have the familiar new style Airfix instruction booklet. We have a large decal sheet, and we have some paint sheets. So let's take those out, put them to one side. The actual kit itself comes in 2 bags, which is their usual format at this size. So you've got all the plastic sprues in one bag and then the clear sprues in another bag inside that bag. And what I generally do with these, because they're always quite a decent sized bag, is I cut them off at the seal point, and then they can be folded over and reused throughout the build. And as some of you may know, I tend to rebag the rest of the sprues when I start the build. But this has never been opened, so we will be looking at this for the first time together. Let me open the bag and then we'll take a look at the instructions. So we have the familiar Airfix A4 stapled colour instructions, matte, so you're not going to get any light bouncing off them as you work through them. The front page, as always, has a bit of history and aircraft specification in several languages. And then at the bottom, and I always think it's in the wrong place really, you have the little bit that says, for best results, wash your parts before you start. And I always think, really, that should be there in step 1. Or maybe even as part of the key or something like that. It seems to be in the wrong place, and I think lots of people would miss it, and lots of people perhaps don't bother with it anyway, but I certainly do. So you've got the assembly icons, all familiar if you've used Airfix, worked with Airfix kits before. They always keep the key the same, so nice and easy. And then we have our step breakdown. Now, this is the more modern version of the instructions, which has the highlighted colours showing you where the last part was. Quite often it's good to just flick ahead a few steps and have a look at that, because it gives you the orientation, and it's a good way of cross-checking you're getting the parts in the right place. Although the design of Airfix kits is such now that it is not really easy to get things wrong. We start here with the seat. So we've got a 2-part seat, and then you've got an option which is nice. You've got an option for all the seat cushions, or all the seat cushions with harnesses. So you can decide whether you want to add aftermarket or paint in what you've got. And I suppose we will have a look at the moulded on ones and take a view of that. So yeah, it's nice that you've got the option. They are considering that a lot of modelers will want to replace the harnesses or add etched harnesses, or maybe even a pilot. So yeah, I think that's a good little feature. Then we're putting the top piece on there with that little checked piece of striped piece of pipework there. Then we are building up the tub for the cockpit. Okay, and then that pilot seat's going in. Control sticks, dials. Guessing that's the compass, is it? And then what I'm going to suspect will be the forward undercarriage bay. So 10 steps on the first page. It all looks quite busy, doesn't it? It looks quite nice at this stage. So as we flip over step 11, we've got to grips with the fuselage. So we have some piece going on there. Is that going to be for an arrestor hook, maybe? Not sure. We've got some holes to drill. They're giving you the diameters, which is always nice. Not everyone does that, strangely. But yeah, 1mm hole. And then we're putting the cockpit tub in. It's giving you the instructions to paint that small section beforehand, which is another nice thing of Airfix kits. They do tell you everything you need to be painting as you go along. Then we have a little blanking piece in the nose, and I'm not quite sure what that is. I don't know much about the aircraft other than I like the look of it. I'm not really an aviation buff, so I'm sure many of you watching this know a lot more about it than me. Then we have start of the engine parts going in, and that's quite nice. You've got the air intakes are properly moulded in all the way up to the blades there, so that's nice. That'll all look nice and accurate. I think that looks really nice. 2 parts, pop it in, and I guess the wing will go around that. That's lovely. More drilling, mirroring what we did there. Some oxygen bottles going in. Shows you how to align them in close up, which is handy. Then we're mirroring what we've done over there with the air intakes. And if you want to put a stand in, now's the time to do it. They persist in showing this particular type of stand, but I don't think you can get that particular type anymore. They have the older type, which rather than using pins, you see there's 2 pinholes there. The older type, you need a slot, and they sell them, but I haven't seen them on the website for years. So really the instructions want updating with this stand thing. Right, 20 grams of nose weight, which it's suggesting to put in forward of the air intakes just behind the cockpit bulkhead, which yeah, I'm guessing is the right place depending on what space you've got in the nose. It will be behind the front wheel though, so it will be interesting to see if that works. I'm sure they've tested it. Step 21 now of page 6, and we are building up the exhaust at the tail there. So what have we got? 2, 3, 4, 5 components, which then attach into the fuselage, and then green means we need to remove it. So we're putting out a section of the wing there, so I'm guessing we're changing the shape on this particular version of the Hunter. And the same with the lower wings, underside of the wings. So we are putting the top wing in, and you see it's got a section of fuselage there, and it's sitting over the top of that. So it'll be really nice. You won't have a join running along the top that you've got to sand out. So that's really clever, that, and kudos to Airfix for thinking through that. And your join will then be the sort of the traditional join on the leading and trailing edges of your wings. We have the nose cone going on as well. So there's nothing in there, so potentially you could put some weight in there if you felt the need. Okay, looks like we've got detail for the wheelbase in the wing as well. And then what have we got? We've got some options here in step 30. So step 30 is really the point where you're deciding whether you're undercarriage up or down, and it's telling you which steps you need to miss out depending on which way you're going to go. And this actual picture here is for gear up. We've got some holes to drill if you want to add these bombs, I take it they are. Interestingly, the undercarriage doors go on to the inside of the wing rather than going in from the outside, so I think that's quite a nice little touch. You probably find it's easier to get them flush doing that, so that's a nicely thought little process. If you're going for the option of undercarriage down, then you've got some extra details to put in. The walls that go around the landing gear bay. And whether you might consider putting part or all of that in for strength in the wing, I don't know. You'd have to have a look at it, but I'm guessing that's a possible option. Whether the closed door will foul on that, that's also quite possible, I imagine. All things to look at while you're in the build process. We've got more holes to drill depending on what you want to mount underneath the wing. Now we're now at step 34. So we're building up these parts that, is that the area we cut out? I think that might be the area we cut out, so it'll be a different shape. Let me just look back. Yeah, that is the section we carved out, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Step 38, we're on the tail. Looks like the tail can be posed 20 degrees each way. And then the tail fins. Looks like we've got moulded in flaps there. And then we are building up the wings. So again, posable. It's got all the various degrees there, so you don't get the positioning wrong. And you've got options of having it closed as well as open. We've got some small little triangular parts that are going in there. I guess that's to, yeah, correct the fit. Yeah. It's all very clever, very detailed, nice, clear instructions, making sure that you get something that looks right. So quite pleased with that. Landing gear is then going in. Okay, well that looks detailed enough, no cabling for the brakes or anything, but easy enough to put on if that's what you want to do. Then we've got more bits going into the landing gear bay, another bulkhead, and then we do the same on the other side, which gets us to step 51, and we're just finishing the process of building up the landing gear doors. Okay, that all looks nice enough. Two parts there means that your moulding is going to be crisper and more detailed, so that's nice to see. And then right at the bottom there, we've got a picture front on showing you the orientation of all those parts we've fitted. So you're sure that when you look at it, it looks right. You've not posed anything too far in or too far out. So I think that's a really nice touch as well. It's definitely well thought through. 57 and 58, we're building up the wheels, and nice to see we have separate hubs. So much easier to paint the hubs and the tyres as separate items and bring them together. Got little notches in so that they sit correctly in the tyre. So I'm guessing that the tyres are weighted. Looks like there's flats on them there. so that'll make sure that the wheel goes onto its mounting point correctly with the flat in the correct place. So that's also nice and cleverly thought out. I like that. Then we've got the nose wheel. Nice to see that separate. I would have expected nothing less at this scale, but you never know. The print's gone slightly out of register here, but you can see where that's gone in. And then we've got some bulges that we're adding to the forward fuselage, just tucked under the wing there, and then out to the cannon openings. Step 65, that looks like air brake to me. So we're building that up, open or close, you've got the option. Then we're building up some bombs, 2-part bombs. Then we're removing a part so that we can replace it with a different shape part. And the clear wing tips are going in. Now it looks to me, when you look at that closely, looks to me like some of it is for painting and you've got to mask off a smaller area. So we'll have to have a look at that and take a view. Canopy options, got a fully formed one for closed and 2 separate pieces if you want a depictor open. So good to have those options. And it feels like that is it. So 70 steps. Quite involved, yet at the same time nice and straightforward in terms of the build sequence makes sense. Yeah, I'm happy with that. There's some nice little ideas in there. And then on the back page we've got common stencils. I've certainly seen more on an aircraft, but we've got a good number. So whichever version you're going for, these need to be on all of them. So that's nice and clearly done. Let's have a look at the paint schemes now. So we have an additional set of common stencils, but it's referring you to just paint schemes A and C. So I guess paint scheme B, you just stay with what was on the back of the instruction book. I'm going to take back what I said about have seen more on an aircraft. We've got an awful lot of stencils here. Yeah, even some options. Wowzers. I like putting decals on. That's going to really bring this to life. Yeah, that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. We've got what? 3 decals on the bombs there. We've got decal on the mounting point. We've got all sorts of internal door decals. Blimey, lots to go out there. Yeah, that will be fun. Right, and we turn over. We have paint scheme C, which is number 7 wing, Belgium, June 1956. So camouflage top and what's that? Silver bottom, so aluminium underneath, I would guess. And then the particular decals required for that. It's quite nice with the little red nose. I think that's a nice paint scheme. And the red, yellow and black roundels looks nice. Not often, I'm not even sure I've ever built an aircraft with Belgian markings before. Yeah, that's quite nice. Then paint scheme B is number 3 Squadron, Swedish Air Force, Stockholm 1959. So all green top and that sort of steel grey colour underneath. Some white markings on the underneath side as well. It's a very business-like looking paint scheme, I think that. Yeah, some nice markings as well. I think I prefer scheme C to B. I'm not quite sure why, but I do. And then finally, scheme A, number 1 Squadron. Looks like a particular Operation Musketeer in Cyprus, September to November 1956. And again, you've got that sort of aluminium underside, camouflage top, but with these big yellow and black stripes. She looks very striking in that, doesn't she? And these are decals, so you don't have to worry about painting them on. Of course, you can mask it all on if you prefer rather than decals. I think that looks quite nice and may well be the way I end up going, I would think. Quite a few decals to put on, in addition to the many decals that we've already put on. Yeah, there we go. Let's have a look at the decal sheet next. So we have a really good sized decal sheet. As always, in fact, I've got this upside down. That'll help you. As always, we've got the common at the top, so all those decals that we saw being shouted out, including cockpit decals and bits and pieces, lots and lots of them. Then we've got the RF version, Sweden, Belgium. Not much between them in terms of count. There's lots and lots of little red crosses on this Swedish version. So I think if you don't like decals, Belgium is the way to go. But yeah, the decals are good, register's good. They will be cartographed, so we know they're going to go down okay. Colours are nice and vibrant, and register looks okay. So, you know, standard Airfix decals, pretty lovely. Right then, sprue or frame A, as Airfix prefer to call it, has our 2 fuselage parts on it, which gives us a good idea of the size of the finished kit. It's a reasonable size mod. We've got the inside parts there for the exhaust, and then there's the external parts, and then we've got those 2 halves for the air intakes which sit inside, as we saw. And they look like parts of the flaps, and then the basically the front and back of the engine there. So detail is really quite nice. We've got panel detail, as we'd expect, which is all engraved. The panel lines, it's always something of interest with an Airfix kit because they vary so much, but in this instance the panel lines, I would say, although clearly oversized for the real thing, by the time you've painted it and what have you, it's going to present you some nice opportunities for weathering, and they're definitely not oversized, so that's nice. We can see where this top part of the wing's going to go in. Bottom part will butt up to the fuselage. There's no issues there in terms of flash, as we'd expect with it being a relatively new tool, and no sink. There is, I think that's supposed to be there. That might be the part we cut off actually. Yeah, some little bits sticking up, but I think they're supposed to be there. The tail carries on. We've got the right shape. We've got the little bulge there that she's known for, and all the panel lines. So yeah, that looks really quite nice. Engine blades, fan blades are nicely depicted. I'm sure it has a proper name, but I don't know it. On the inside, we have a little bit of detail, but we've got the cockpit in a tub, so wouldn't expect to see too much. Okay, frame B, and primarily we've got the wings there, the tail bits, bombs, and I don't think we used those. I don't think that was in the instructions, so therefore another version. Pitot tube, is that? I don't know whether that's a bit thick or not. Looks like it could be, possibly. Right, the top wing has got all the little hatch details on there, and the panel lines. Looks very nice, following on from what we've just seen with the fuselage. It's all good. No blemishes or sink or anything in there. The connection points, the sprue gates, this one here is broken. I don't know if you, there you go, you can see that one has come off, but those are the only two, the two gates there are the only ones that are on a surface that will end up being seen. All these others are on surfaces that won't be seen, so that's a nice touch. And when we look at the wing here, again, just these two outer edge ones that would be seen, because we've got part going in there, we've got the flaps going on, that's butting up to the fuselage. So it's been nicely thought out where they can. They have thought about reducing the work and the possibility of damage. There we have the first bit of sink just in the tail there. So the tail is a single thick piece, and on both sides we've got a little dimple. It's tiny, but unfortunately we have detail over one of them, so we might be worth sanding that off and replacing it with some micro strip or something so that we can fill the little dimple. Don't know if I can get that to show in the light. It's a tiny dimple there, and the same on that side. But I was just about to say, but that's all I can see, and I think we might have a small amount just there as well. Yeah, again, they're solid, so that's the risk you run. Yeah, a little bit, but it's minor stuff. And as we flip it over, we can see some of this inside detail in the landing gear bays, which is actually really quite nicely textured. You've got fastener detail in there. We've got some cables running at the side. So a wash and a dry brush, and that should come out quite nicely. Frame C deals with, as you can see, a lot of the smaller parts and a lot of the internal parts. So we've got the inside components for the landing gear, the cockpit tub, some of the landing gear doors. We've got, I don't know whether they're bombs or drop tanks. Probably drop tanks, I guess. That's the nose there, is it? The wheel hubs. The tyres, which do have flats on them, as does the front tyre, which already has the hub moulded in, so you've got a bit of both worlds there. The oxygen tanks look nicely done. As do these wheel hubs. Danger when you've got something that thick is that you end up with some sink, and if there is, it's on this side that's not going to be as easily seen, but it's not noticeable that there is. If there is, I can't see it. We've got quite a lot of detail on the mounting points for the bombs, and all sorts of cable detail running in the landing gear bulkheads, which is nice to see. The brackets and things are oversized. No doubt Edward has done some etch and replaces it all, but I'm not going to bother. Landing, they look like some form of hydraulic door ram or something. The landing gear for the front wheel, yeah, a little bit soft moulded that, perhaps. Then we've got the gear up doors. They look quite nice. That's the rear bulkhead of the cockpit, which has got some detail on it, a little hatch and some studs or switches, not sure which. We've got all the dials and stuff there, which are quite nicely done. You can see. But we have a decal to go over that if you prefer. And then that's our pilot's seat. That's nicely detailed as well, actually. That'll look quite cool. Painted up. The cockpit, we've got the pedals moulded in, which by the time that's installed should look all right. Then you've got all the dials and things on the side. Can't remember if we've got decals for that, but again, a little soft moulded, but picked out in paint and seen at the distance, it'll be fine. The landing gear. Looks okay. We might actually have a cable on there, on the back. I'll show you in a sec. We've got some of those internal bits. The air brake. The air brakes, the first part that I've gone, quite a bit of ejector pin mark where you don't want it, but actually in areas easy to clean up, so not too bad. And the nose. Tyres don't have any tread. I don't know whether that's right or not, but I like this little notch they've put in to make sure everything's orientated right. Then we've got the seat. So we've got the version which has just the cushions, and then we've got the one which has, I'm assuming that's a parachute, and basically the harness is stowed away as if the pilot has got out and it's been left for its maintenance or whatever. I think those look quite nice actually. A bit chunky side on, but you're not really going to see it side on. Be interested to see what that looks like under paint. I think that might be all right. And that's the blanking piece for the nose. So we turn it that way, then you can get a good view of that seat. Let's see if I can improve the light. Sorry, the sun's coming through, and I mustn't grumble about the sun, but it does change how I can film. There's our cockpit tub. See all that nice detail they put in. Wheel hubs. There's all the cabling on those bulkheads. And we do have ejector pin marks on some of these doors and bits and pieces, but that's probably that's probably the worst bit, but as you can see, won't be difficult to clean up. Bit of Mr. Surfacer and a bit of patience and you'll be fine. And then that's the top of the seat there. You see that's nicely moulded. Yeah, that's all right. That frame F is much smaller, and we seem to have some of the optional parts that not all of them are used on this kit. Now, this is interesting. So we've got, this is the tail exhaust again, so there must be a different engine or something, and we have a different nose, which obviously there was something else that went on the end of the nose there. We have an arrestor hook, which I don't think we're using, and then we have this air brake, and when you flip the air brake over, that one's got no ejector pins, which is lovely because they've put them in the sprue there. So I'll have to look at what the differences are. If we could swap that out, that would be good. Maybe that's the one we're using, I'm not sure. Trying to get, there we go. Bit difficult to see in my my light. So the last grey plastic sprue is frame G, and this has the replacement parts for the bit that you cut out of the wing. It has the alternative seat top that we use. So these are the parts that we'll be using, no doubt. Has a slightly different tailpiece again with this little bulge in it, and some form of, it's got a flared end, so I don't know, is it a refueling nose, or I'm not quite sure what that is, but that's what we've got. All done to a nice standard. Detail is nice and crisp. Yeah, really nice. So our last parts are the clear plastic parts, and I was keen to have a look at these wing tips, and what we can see is the part of the wing is actually included in the plastic, which means we're painting up to the edge of the glass rather than the glass being an edge. That means if there's any gaps, we can fill it without worrying about damaging the glass, so that's perfect. It also makes it, in my view, a bit easier to mask off, so I like that. Then we've got this closed canopy and open canopy, which has quite a chamfer on the back. And if we look at the distortion, I've seen better, but it's not too bad. Depends on your angle. And I actually think the closed one is slightly better than the open one, but yeah, not too bad. Then we've got some navigational lights in there. It's certainly nice and clear. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with those. Nothing wrong with those at all. So there we have it, Airfix's Hawker Hunter. What are my first impressions? Well, let's just go back to 2019. 2019, Airfix released their new tool Hawker Hunter kit, and later that year they released this, which had the change parts, which was those two additional little bits of sprue in there. So basically this was a new tool in 2019, and it shows that it is. I think the kit is well thought through, the instructions are well thought through. There's been some little bit of innovation in the design of it to make life a little bit easier, so taking out the wheel hubs and thinking about the build process and designing that into the kit parts, I think is really nice, is really nice, and Airfix are getting better and better at doing that all the time. Now, both the kits that Airfix released in 2019 had 3 paint options. So effectively, in 2019, Airfix released 6 different variants of the Hawker Hunter that you could build. So that was some going. This is readily available, still available from Airfix and its various different retailers. Price in the UK ranges from £35 to £43, depending on where you get it. So do shop around, as always. I think it's a cracking little kit. Skill level 4, I'm not quite sure exactly where that comes from, and I don't know how they calculate that. Most of the kit, I would say, was fairly straightforward. The things that are going to pose a little bit of a challenge is putting nose weights in if you've never done it before, and possibly some of the fiddlier parts. And as always, until you build it, we don't know what the fit's like, but I think this kit looks really quite nice. It's not overly complex. and it's not too simplified. And I think you're getting quite a decent model for the cost. There's nothing there. It doesn't blow your socks off, but there's nothing there to say, actually, I wouldn't buy this. I wouldn't recommend it. It looks lovely. So if you're in the market for a 1/48 scale Hawker Hunter, I think you do well to think about one of the Airfix versions, because it does look like a decent kit at a reasonable price. So there you have it, my thoughts on it. If you're interested in seeing this get built at some point, then hit the subscribe button. Everything that I do a first impressions video of stays in my stash with the intention that I will build it one day. Just need to make sure I have enough days to do them all. So I hope that was helpful and useful. If you're interested in picking up a Hawker Hunter, take care everyone, enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon.